Welcome to the From the Other Side live show podcast. The live show will begin in 2 minutes. Grab a snack and a drink and sit down to watch another one of our great live shows. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and share the live show video link. Enjoy the show. The live show will begin in 1 minute. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and share the live show video link. Please like and leave a comment and share this video.
Welcome everybody to live show 126, the global update, where tonight we'll cut through all the chaos to bring you the stories reshaping our world, from diplomatic tightropes to military maneuvers, economic shocks and consumer wake-up calls. Today is a global roller coaster. Tonight's show length will be shorter than normal length, and I'm also trying a new subtitle service, turning my words into Russian text. So buckle up, let's dive in with no stars required. Let's go. News. Oh, hang on, got a small problem here. Give me a second. Okay, let's start the show. Technical issues as usual. Our first story is Wickoff's Iran talks and Trump's caution. Axios reports Steve Wickoff is meeting Israel's intelligence chief and minister of strategic planning ahead of talks with Iran, as Tehran's nuclear ambitions dominate headlines. So what's happening? The US is aligning with Israel before engaging Iran, possibly on a new revived nuclear deal. The New York Times noted Israel shelved a May strike on Iran's nuclear facilities after Trump's refusal, who said, I'm not in a hurry. Iran has a chance to become a great country and live happily without death. So what's the latest news? Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi set to visit Russia this week, per the MFA, seeks Moscow's support for nuclear talks. On X, posts are divided. Some praise Trump's restraint, others see it as a position weakening Israel's position. So why does it matter? Trump's caution risks US-Israel tensions, while Iran's Russia-China alignment complicates diplomacy. A misstep could spark a regional conflict. And here is the Iranian delegation arriving in Rome. The US shifts from Ukraine, ceasefires talks intensify. Senator Mark Rubio says after 3 years of Ukraine aid, the US must focus on something else as ceasefire talks gain urgency. So what's happening? Bloomberg reports a US proposal to ease Russia sanctions for a Ukraine settlement. Trump expects Russia's ceasefire response this week, threatening to exit if the talks are sabotaged. The State Department cites Paris consultations as promising, with the US-Europe-Ukraine talks set for London next week. Let's listen to Marco Rubio.
Try to figure out very soon, and I'm talking about a matter of days, not a matter of weeks, whether or not this is the war that can be ended. If it can, we're prepared to do whatever we can to facilitate that and make sure that it happens, that it ends in a durable and just way. If it's not possible, if we're so far apart that this is not going to happen, then I think the president's probably at a point where he's going to say, well, we're done. You know, we'll do what we can on the margins. We'll be ready to help whenever you're ready to have peace. But we're not going to continue with this endeavor for weeks and months on end. So we need to determine very quickly now, and I'm talking about a matter of days, whether or not this is doable over the next few weeks. If it is, we're in. If it's not, then we have other priorities to focus on as well.
So the latest news is TASS notes that the US-Ukraine memorandum lacks security guarantees, worrying Kiev. Trump, not blaming Zelensky but critical of the war's start, pushes a minerals deal for Thursday. Former advisor Sullivan says ATACMS delays are due to shortages, not World War III fears. And the US voted against a UN resolution condemning Russia's aggression, stirring debate. And posts on social media are split on whether this is a breakthrough or betrayal. So why does it matter? A US pivot could reshape NATO's role and Ukraine's future, with global alignments shifting fast. And Ukraine's story continues with a hopeful note later in the show. Russia exits Barents, Baltics fortify. So TASS reports Russia has scrapped the Barents region cooperation with Norway, Sweden and Finland, escalating Arctic tensions. So what's happening? Russia's withdrawal from the Barents Euro-Arctic Council reflects its western rift. Lithuania is upgrading its roads and border fences for NATO, while Estonia, per Sputnik, mandates women's military service, citing demographics. Estonia's Paluson called Russia's Victory Day a farce, pushing a different value order. Social posts frame this as a Baltic resolve, but some warn Russian retaliation. There's no Kremlin response yet. So why does it matter? The Arctic and Baltics are NATO Russia's flashpoints, with resources and security at risk. Things are heating up in the Arctic, and it's just not from melting ice. Please leave your comments and I'll read them out. The US downsizes in Syria and Russia stays put. The New York Times reports the US is closing 3 of 8 Syrian bases, withdrawing 600 troops, with the Washington Post noting a possible minimum presence. Russia's foreign ministry says Moscow's forces are not moving. So what's happening? The US is streamlining its anti-ISIS mission, while Russia maintains a strategic basis for regional influence. Syrian media reports southern Syrian militias are dissolving and surrendering weapons to authorities. So what's the latest news? A TASS source says Syria's ambassador requesting asylum in Russia, signalling regime uncertainty, and social media posts warn of a vacuum benefiting Turkey or Iran, and no Russian deployment shifts are reported. So why does it matter? The US drawdown could weaken Kurdish allies, while Russia's presence in Syria's internal shifts reshape the balance of power. Syria's chessboard is getting messier. And again, please put your comments in the chat and I'll read them out. Of Putin talks and Ukraine's territorial dilemma. The Wall Street Journal reports Steve Wickoff discussed Ukraine's territorial issues with Putin, part of the ceasefire efforts. So what's happening? Talks centered on Donbass and Crimea. Rubio's Lavrov call, as per TASS, updated the US-Ukraine talks in France. Trump's Paris consultations and London talks next week push peace, with a minerals deal set for Thursday. And the latest news is Russia's UN request for closed talks on an energy strike moratorium suggests de-escalation, but Ukraine's alleged Kharkiv provocation complicates matters. Lavrov notes settlement components are not easy to agree on. Social media posts are skeptical on progress or a Russian trap. So why does it matter? Territorial concessions are divisive for Kiev, and Trump's urgency adds pressure, a deal that could shift the war or falter. Diplomacy is a tough sell, but it's in motion. Russia's FSB foils plots and Russia advances. Russia's FSB detained an alleged Ukrainian SBU agent in Krasnokhdar, accused of planning a explosion, and Moldovan citizens in Volgograd, Saratova and Crimea, plus 2 Russians in Samir, for Ukraine-linked terrorist plots. So what's happening? The FSB claims these groups controlled by Ukrainian intelligence targeted Russian infrastructure. The Defense Ministry says Preobrazhgradska, which I butchered that, in the DPR was liberated, and on April 13th a Iskander-M strike in Sumy killed over 60 Ukrainian command staff, and it is rumoured NATO personnel. So the latest news is on social media posts amplify Russian sabotage claims, but Kiev hasn't responded. No independent verification, and DPR gains escalated tensions. Russia's Central Federal District formed mobile police units to protect railways, signalling heightened security. Let's watch the FSB in action.
Ноги под себя, колени под себя, встаем. Волны.
So why it matters? These incidents fuel distrust, threatening ceasefire hopes. Russia's battlefield and security moves strengthened its negotiating hand. A shadow war that's all too real. The EU in Kiev, LNG imports persist. French Foreign Minister Barrard says EU foreign ministers will visit Kiev on May 9 for Europe Day. Reuters reports the EU won't ban Russian LNG imports, lacking alternatives. The Kiev visits signal solidarity, but EU reliance on Russian gas draws criticism. Callas, this one, says EU countries visiting Moscow on May 9th will face consequences. While Hungary's Szijjártó rejects the EU energy sanctions on Russia. So what's the latest news? Callas notes that the EU delivered 2/3 of promised ammo to Kiev and allocated 15% more weapons funding than last year. 15%. Social media posts praise the EU's gesture but slam its energy hypocrisy. The May 14-15 NATO foreign ministers meeting in Turkey may tackle this. So why does it matter? The EU's energy bind limits its anti-Russian leverage, while Kiev needs concrete aid beyond symbolism. Solidarity is one thing, action's another. Energy shifts and moratoriums end. Bloomberg reports Chinese refineries cut US oil purchases by 90%, importing record Canadian crude. And Russia's Peskov says Russian-Ukraine energy strikes moratorium expired without Putin's new orders. So what's happening? China's pivot, driven by US tariffs, boosts Canadia's oil sands, and the moratoriums end, risk energy grid strikes with Ukraine allegedly a Kharkiv provocation. And the latest news is on social media posts highlight China's shift and warn of oil market disruptions. Russia's UN talks requests suggest restraint, but Ganchev's claims cloud prospects. Hungary's foreign minister reinforces EU energy divisions by opposing sanctions. So why does it matter? China's move reshapes energy flows, while energy attacks could worsen civilian hardship and derail peace in Ukraine. So energy is a weapon, and it's loaded. Baltic defences and Rheinmetall's move. Politico reports Lithuania's upgrading roads and border defences for NATO, and Sputnik says Estonian mandates women's military service, citing demographics. Germany's Rheinmetall plant plans a 2026 Ukraine shell plant. So what's happening? Baltics bolster NATO's flank, with Estonia following Lithuania and Latvia. Germany's Rheinmetall's CEO, Papa Gerg, says the plant will aid Ukraine, but Taurus missiles won't shift the front, as Kiev has similar range weapons. The ARD reports Merz in Germany set to lead Germany post May 6 Bundesberg vote, and he supports Taurus delivery if the EU approves. And the latest news is Estonia's Paul Onson calls Russia's Victory Day a farce, sparking social media debates. Germany's Rheinmetall's commitment signals Western resolve, but Merz's stance awaits US consensus. So why does it matter? Baltic fortifications and Ukraine's ammo boost counter Russia, but risk escalation. Germany's leadership shift could sway EU arms policy. The Baltics and the Ukraine are gearing up big time. Financial and trade shifts. The US Treasury says Russia has cut US bond investments to $36 million only in February. Britain reports the UK won't curb China trade despite US pressure, while The Guardian notes classified trade documents over US espionage fields. So what's happening? Russia's sell-off is signalling decoupling. Britain resists US trade war tactics, but espionage concerns strain trust. Germany's Bild says the EU wants arms deal with Trump to nix duties. And the latest news on social media is the post tie Russia's move with BRICS, while UK-China trade debates highlights transatlantic rifts amplified by Trump's tariffs. The US arms for duties pitch reflects economic desperation. So why does it matter? A fragmenting global economy fueled by mistrust is reshaping alliances and trade flows. Money talks, but trust is the real currency. Russia's Taliban shift and Balkan defiance. TASS reports Russia's Supreme Court suspended Taliban activity ban, and the Republic of Sprekaz Dodik cites Putin's invitation and shrugs off EU threats from Callus. So what's happening? Russia's Taliban move may seek new partners amid Western isolation. Dodik's defiance challenges EU's Balkan influence, while Gaguz's Hatsal faces judicial restrictions per her lawyer, limiting her autonomy leadership. Social media posts. So what's the latest news? Social media posts are mixed. Some see Russia's pragmatism, others recklessness. Dodik's stance and Hatsal's legal woes heat regional tensions with no clear EU response. So why it matters? Russia's pivots from Afghanistan to Moldova's Gagauzia tests Western unity and regional stability. So Moscow is playing bold. Easter ceasefire and hopes in Ukraine. There's a flicker of hope. Talks of an Easter ceasefire in Ukraine are gaining traction, tied to Orthodox Easter on April 20, 2025, today. So what's happening amid Trump's ceasefire? push and Paris consultations, a potential truce aims at pause hostilities, Russia's UN request for talks on an energy strike moratorium, and Ukraine's alleged Kharkiv provocation as per Ganchev frame the context. Lavrov's comments on tough settlement components underscore the challenges. So the latest news and social media posts are cautiously optimistic, citing humanitarian benefits but doubt enforcement. No official confirmation, but Trump's urgency, London talks and Ukraine's counter-proposal on a subsoil agreement in Washington keep momentum. Canada's leaders reaffirm Kiev support, boosting morale. So why does it matter? A ceasefire could ease civilian suffering and open peace talks, but distrust and Russia's gains threaten progress. It's a fragile hope. Can Easter deliver peace? Viral videos expose luxury brand costs in China. A consumer shockwave. Viral TikTok videos from Chinese manufacturers expose how luxury brands like Hermes and Lululemon are made cheaply in China, shipped for logos and packaging, then sold at exorbitant prices. So what's happening? Amidst Trump's 145% tariffs on Chinese goods and China's 125% retaliatory tariffs, Chinese factories claim they produce luxury items like a $38,000 Hermes Birkin bag, yes, that's $38,000, for $1,400 or $100 Lululemon leggings for $5 to $6 using identical materials and lines. They urge direct purchasers to skip markups. Hermes and Lululemon deny this, citing production in France or diversified supply chains. And the latest news, BBC Verify warns some videos may push counterfeits as brands under NDAs wouldn't publicly sell. DHgate, a dupes platform, hit number 2 on the US App Store per app figures. Social media posts rage at paying thousands for a logo, while some social media posts notes European logo edition for prestige. Fashion historian Cora Harrington says knockoffs lack Hermes craftsmanships. So why does it matter? Dubbed trade war TikTok. These videos expose supply chain truths, fuel distrust in luxury pricing, and drive platforms like DHgate tariffs amplify costs. But counterfeits and tariffed shipping pose risks. Brands face pressure from transparency as consumers rethink value. Let's watch one of the videos.
This Birkin bag at Hermes boutique will cost you 38,000 USD. But what is the real cost out of the factory? Today, I'm going to break it down in front of you, step by step. First thing first, Hermes only use the leathers from the 3 top-level suppliers. One is called Nuti from Italy. And the second is Wickoff from Germany. And the third is Haas from France. One piece of Togo leather, the same leather as this one, will cost 450 USD. And one piece of the leather is only enough to make one Birkin, okay? The thread. And of course, for Hermes Birkin, the thread is also the best top level. It's called Fil au Chinois from France. This is actually the Rolls Royce in thread. For each bag, the cost is 25 USD. And then the hardware. See, this hardware is called 316 hardware. It's also known as the ocean stainless steel because it can withstand the erosion of seawater. It's the best stainless steel. For one piece of bag, the hardware will cost 150 USD. The edge oil. This edge oil is imported from Italy. It's called heat sealed edge oil. For each bag, it will cost 50 USD. The interior lining, it used lambskin imported from France. For each bag, the cost will be 100 USD. And also inside, there is a zipper from Riri brand. And the zipper for one bag is 10 USD. And then the cost of human resource. The French artisans is much more expensive than Chinese artisans. To finish one bag, the human resource cost will be 600 USD. The package. Now this is not that expensive. It's 10 USD. So now to sum those up, the total cost will be 1,400 USD for one Birkin out of factory. But why Hermes will charge you 38,000 USD for one bag? That's because more than 90% of the price is paid for its logo. But if you do not care about the logo, you just want the same quality, same material, you can just buy from us. Because for our bags, we use exactly the same material, same leather, same hardware, same edge oil. The only difference is one, we don't have the logo, so we don't have to pay so much amount of.
So are you paying for quality or just the logo? It's a wake-up call. Iran's Russia visit and EU-Ukraine integration. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, this guy, will visit Russia this week, as per the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Russia, to consult on nuclear talks and regional issues, while the EU pushes for bold Ukraine integration plans. So what's happening? Araghchi's Moscow trip following his recent Putin meeting aims to align Russia and Iran strategies amid US-Israeli talks. The European Commission, as per the Foreign Minister of Hungary, proposes a fully integrated Ukraine's economy into the EU without waiting for membership, a move to bolster Kiev's resilience. So the latest news is Iran's visit as countering Western pressure, with some warning of a tighter Russia-Iran axis. Hungary's integration faces hurdles as Hungary's Orban claims that EU membership would cost 2.5 trillion euros, a figure sparkling debate. TASS reports the EU halted appointing a special Ukraine negotiator for various reasons, signalling internal rifts. So why does it matter? Iran's Russia alignment complicates nuclear talks, while EU-Ukraine integration could lock in Western support but risks economic strain and Hungarian vetoes. Both moves reshape geopolitical blocs. Big players, bigger stakes, East and West are realigning. EU's Moscow warning and Ukraine's arms push. Estonia's Kallas warns EU countries visiting Moscow on May 9th will face consequences, while the EU ramps up arms for Ukraine through Germany's tourist decision looms. So what's happening? Kallas threatens targets EU nations potentially attending Russia's Victory Day, highlighting bloc divisions. She notes the EU delivered 2/3 of the promised ammo to Kiev and increased weapons funding by 15%. ARD reports Germany's incoming Chancellor Merz supports tourist missile deliveries to Ukraine if EU countries approve, with the Bundestag vote set for May 6th. And the latest news is there's social media post debate Kallas's hardline stance, with some backing her, others calling it division. Merz tourist pivot, if green-lit, could escalate EU involvement, but Hungary's foreign minister and others may resist. Trump says Ukraine constantly requests for US missiles, adding pressure. So why does it matter? EU unity tests as Kallas pushes discipline and arms, while tourist debate signals Germany's pivotal role. Consequences for Moscow visits could deepen internal EU rifts. Let's listen to her.
What was also discussed and very clearly said by different member states is that any participation in the 9th of May parades or celebrations in Moscow will be not taken lightly on the European side, considering that Russia is really waging a full-scale war in Europe. So I will stop here and I'm ready to take your questions.
The EU is walking a tightrope: solidarity or sanctions. Russia's security crackdowns and regional shifts. Russia's FSB detained Moldovan and Russian citizens for Ukraine-linked terrorist plots, while central Russia forms mobile police units to protect railways. And in Syria, militias surrender and Ukraine's missing soldiers haunt families. So what's happening? The FSB claims Moldovan groups under Ukrainian control plan to attack Volgograd, Saratova and Crimea, with 2 Russians detained in Samara. Russia's Interior Ministry reports railway sabotage prevention units in central Russia. Let's have a look. explosives, detonators. Syrian media says southern Syrian militias are dissolving, surrendering weapons, signalling regime consolidation. TASS notes that 10 to 20 daily appeals from relatives of Ukrainian soldiers missing in Kursk. And the latest news is posts amplify Russia's security narrative, but no Ukrainian comment or independent verification. Syria's militia shifts aligns with the ambassador's reports. Asylum requests in Russia. Per TASS, Kursk appeals highlight the war's human toil with no resolution report. So why does it matter? Russia's crackdown signalling heightened domestic vigilance, while Syrian shift bolsters Moscow's ally. Russia's missing soldiers underscores humanitarian stakes, complicating ceasefire talks. From railways to battlefields, the tension is palpable. EU's Trump offer and Ukraine's economic talks. German Bild reports that EU wants an arms deal with Trump to nix duties while Ukraine negotiates a subsoil agreement with the US, but Hungary blocks EU sanctions. So what's happening? The EU, facing Trump's tariffs, offers arms cooperation to ease economic pain. Ukraine's justice minister handed a subsoil counter-proposal to Washington tied to minerals deal, and Hungary's foreign minister rejects a new EU energy sanctions on Russia, citing economic harm. And the latest news is the EU's offer is desperate, with some predicting Trump's leverage. Ukraine's subsoil talks aim to secure resources, but Hungary's stance, echoed by Orban's $2.5 trillion EU membership cost claim, phrase EU unity. No arms deal confirmation yet. So why does it matter? The EU's economic gambit and Ukraine's resource push reflect desperation to counter Russian and US pressures. But Hungary's veto power looms large. Deals and dollars, geopolitical meets economics. And over in Yemen, the Houthis announced this week the destruction of the 20th and 21st American MQ Reaper EUs. And over in Yemen, the Houthis announced this week the destruction of the 20th and 21st American MQ-9 Reaper UAVs. Yeah, watch this video of one of them being destroyed.
ربنا عليك توكلنا وعليك علمنا يا الله سجد الشكر يا رجال سجد الشكر لله سجد الشكر يا ربي لك الحمد يا ربي لك الحمد يا الله لك الحمد.
Sounds very excited. And still in Yemen, the US bombs the oil facilities out of port, and over 60 dead and many injured. And went to the game on Friday night, and Dynamo Minsk lost to Tractor in an important match of the quarterfinal playoffs for the Gagarin Cup KHL 2-3. After convincing victory 2 days earlier, we were expecting a goal-scoring feast to continue. It was actually 8-0 for Minsk Dynamo. But however, it was the Russian team, Tractor, that scored the first goal. And the Minsk team then got even while playing with a power play. And they were 1-1. And then after the break, Dynamo put in another one ahead. So that was 2-1. Then everything changed in the third period when Dynamo conceded twice. And the score in the best of the four series became 3-1 in favour of Tractor, and the teams will meet again in Russia tonight. News coming up. Here's some videos of the game and the night. This is the warm-up. The tractor coming out onto the stadium, onto the rink. And this is Dynamo coming out for the game. And then, as usual, they played the Russian team's Russian anthem, national anthem, and then the Belarusian anthem. With the whole stadium singing the Belarusian anthem. And I didn't take any video this time, but here's some photos I took. There's a video of the crowd going in. And it was disappointing for the fans of Dynamo Minsk, but let's see how they will do tonight. The news will be just after this. I'll just check shortly. And if you haven't yet, check out our From the Other Side Substack. This week we did the elite bunkers and hidden geomagnetic threats, unveiling the truth behind doomsday bunkers and climate narratives. A short story, a false flag operation in Ukraine, and Trump's tariff gamble. So check them out on our Substack. So, sad news. Dynamo Minsk hockey players finished the fight for the Gagarin Cup in the KHL playoffs. Dynamo lost to Tractor in Russia today. The series final score is 4-1. Here's some of the game.
Знаешь, мне кажется, что что-то нужно делать со вторым. Но, наверное, да, вот вместо Пышкала можно поднять туда Стася. Потому что это такой игрок, ну, ясно, не Шипачев, мы так вот с этой точки зрения посмотрим на этот вопрос. Но, по крайней мере, вот сыграть какой-то тонкий пас, наверное, Андрей может. Да? Причем важно понять, к Пышкалу нет никаких вопросов по самоотдаче, он борется, но вот действительно это звено не досчитывается такого какого-то... Василию шайбу. Идеально, конечно, на себе бы сейчас удаление заработать. Опять в центре теряем Светлакова. А таких парней нельзя оставлять одних. Но вот сейчас Светлаков на шайбе первым был, но откидывал он в сторону атаки ее, потому что не смог бы дотянуться и сразу бросить. С Камером за воротами шайбу останавливает, трактор меняется. Он, знаешь, он такой вот, он ситуативный. Вот он прям вот получился сейчас.
Смотри,
не
вот,
факт, что такое получится каждый раз.
На входе в зону у Пинчука были проблемы, да, там вначале вмешался Кравцов, да, потом все-таки у Кравцова Пинчук шайбу забрал, только передачу, он же отдал, неудобно сюда, наверное.
Неудобно, да.
Милош нагружает, и Усов смахивает шайбу, и потом уже еще и от штанги. В общем,
от штанги цельного финального штурма тоже, увы, не получилось.
Да, много раз нам показывает этот повтор. Ну, буквально вторым касанием Кравцов бросает от красной линии и...
And that was the end of their title run, but that's the first they've ever got, so good on the lads there. Okay, just a reminder that the 80th Victory Day will be held on May 9th in Minsk with a military parade, and we'll be streaming it live, so tune in for that. There'll be no shows this week as I'll be out of the country. And that's today's whirlwind, a world of tense talks, shifting powers, fragile peace hopes, consumer outrage and high-stakes manoeuvring, plus a bit of hockey. What's your take? Will Easter ceasefire hold? Are luxury markups a scam? Or is the EU's Trump deal a game-changer? Join the debate on X, and this was the live show 126 with no stars required, keeping you sharp and informed until the next time. Stay real, and if you follow us on Telegram, you'll see where I am this week. Bye-bye.